Fox News alert. President Biden has ordered more than 3,000 troops to Eastern Europe in support of our allies. This as all signs suggest that Russia is moving closer to an all-out war with Ukraine. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany. I'm joined by my co-host Emily Campagno and Harris Faulkner, former State Department spokeswoman Morgan Ortagus, and in the center virtual seat, radio and podcast host Ben Ferguson. Well, President Biden ordering American forces to Poland, Germany, and Romania. The Pentagon says this is a temporary deployment and that no U.S. troops will be on the ground in Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin has amassed more than 100,000 troops along the border with Ukraine. That includes 5,000 troops in Belarus, which would give Putin a direct route to the Ukrainian capital. U.S. officials also say Russia is moving key medical supplies to the border, further suggesting a plan to invade. But given how hard it is to determine Russia's true intentions, the United States isn't taking any chances.
Do you have any evidence that Putin plans to move beyond Ukraine's borders? Why are you bolstering these eastern flank allies if you do not have evidence of that?
Because it's important that we send a strong signal to Mr. Putin and, frankly, to the world that NATO matters to the United States. It matters to our allies. What we see, Jen, is clear evidence every day that he continues to destabilize the environment by adding more forces into the western part of his country and along Belarus. He clearly is providing himself many options, lots more capabilities. For exactly what purpose, we don't know right now.
Morgan, this is a very significant development. Barbara Starr followed up on Jennifer Griffin's questioning there, saying, what about the current situation specifically merits 3,000 U.S. troops going to Eastern Europe? What about it? He didn't really have clear answers there. They also pointed out, why are we doing this before NATO and many other countries? Your thoughts, Morgan?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we're lucky to have Jennifer Griffin in the Pentagon briefing room. She's always asking crystal clear questions.
Yes.
So I think when you look at the announcement today, the countries where Biden is sending troops are our allies, right? They are in NATO. You'll remember, Kayleigh, that Poland, loved President Trump so much there was talk about having a Fort Trump there. So I am all for protecting
Yes.
people that are our allies and that are our friends. However, to follow up on what Kirby said, the Pentagon spokesperson, Kirby said, that they wanted to back up NATO to show that we're resolved. Well, I agree with all of that, but my question is, where are the French and the Germans? The UK clearly understands that that this situation with Russia is in Europe. It affects them, and they're doing security agreements with Ukraine and Poland and others. The United Kingdom is sending equipment. So I know basically the Brits get it. They understand that they have to fight for themselves and protect their own sovereignty. And I always believe in protecting our allies. However, my big question, and I think that it was right for Jennifer or Barbara Starr, whoever asked it, to really push Kirby on this, is where is the rest of NATO? Where is Germany? Where is France? And we've talked a lot about this, Kayleigh, on this show. This is why I've had a continual problem with the Biden administration greenlighting the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that essentially makes Europe dependent on Russian gas. And the bigger problem in all of this is that the Germans have refused to take their energy security into their own hands. They have backed Russia up at every point of the way. And so a lot of people are saying, well, this is making NATO a lot stronger. I don't see it that way. I see a fractured alliance where not every country is fully in the fight. And that is the principle behind why President Trump said all allies in NATO must pay their fair share. He wanted to make sure that everybody was in the fight equally. And I think that that's called into question today.
It's so true. This is not unified action. In many ways, it feels like almost unilateral action on the part of the United States. This part really stood out to me because John Kirby was pressed very hard on could there be a further development. He answered this way. Let's listen.
The steps I'm talking about today could very well be preliminary steps to future ones that we might take.
But can you rule out that any of these troops, specifically some from the 82nd Airborne, might be brought into Ukraine in the coming days to help with a non-combatant evacuation? Is that possible that they could be used for that?
As I think you heard the Secretary say on Friday, our troops are multi-mission capable and they will be prepared for a range of contingencies.
a range of contingency plans. I mean, Ben, that's not ruling anything out. And forgive me, but I don't trust this commander-in-chief after what happened in Afghanistan.
Well, and I also think it's very clear that this president is not leading on this issue and doesn't really know what his own plan is. And if he was leading, he would be calling out NATO and he would be doing things to put pressure on Russia now instead of after the fact, when it's very clear that I think you have Vladimir Putin checking boxes right now. It's almost like he's using America's game plan before we went to war in Afghanistan, where you go and you talk to everybody, you check that box, then you make other statements, you check that box. Then you go to the Olympics and you meet with some people there and you check that box. And then you say you're a victim, as he just said, where, well, they're not, we have to protect ourselves. It's obvious what his intentions are right now, at least what he's leaning towards, which is an invasion. And it's like we're all sitting here and we don't know what's happening because we have a president that doesn't know what his foreign policy actually is. These troops clearly are a PR, I think, move at best. They certainly aren't about American interests or NATO's interests because they don't know what their job or their plan is with these troops. That should be concerning for anyone serving in the military right now. And it should be very concerning for members of Congress that we have a commander-in-chief that doesn't understand what our strategy is with Vladimir Putin if he does, in fact, invade.
Right, because remember, it's one thing if it's a minor incursion, he told us. A huge sign of weakness to Vladimir Putin, who Harris has anywhere from 100,000 to 130,000 troops on the border. We know 5,000 troops in Belarus, which is about 140 miles from Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. And at a UN Security Council meeting, they said we might see 30,000 troops going into Belarus by mid-February. This is an extraordinary development.
All right, so what you just said, I think, is really critical previously. You said, before all of this, what we knew from the President of the United States was there wouldn't really be any punitive action taken for a minor incursion. I think he still feels that way. And how do I know that? Because originally it was 8,500 United States troops that we were going to mass and potentially deploy. And now it's a number much smaller than that, less than half. And so what does that tell you? Well, Russia's troop buildup is getting bigger, as you just pointed out, and ours is just like a toe in the bucket. Now, two things. Our military is amazing, and we can accomplish, I think, more with 5 than many can with 1,000. But you don't necessarily want to send them in that way. Like, you want to go strong here. 3,000 troops, and you're the only country. Why is that? It sounds political. It sounds like a clapback. Remember, I had Admiral Kirby from the Pentagon on just last week, and I pressed, why didn't you do anything as they were amassing 127,000 troops? He didn't trip up on the number I used. He didn't trip up on anything. What he said was, well, we're going to punish them when something happens, and make no mistake about it, I'm paraphrasing him. If they invade, we'll go do something. And then all of a sudden the game plan changes. Why? Why? Because the politics are changing. Because America is waking up to the fact that, yeah, we don't want to go to war over there. Why can't we do something preemptively? This feels like, and this was the other thing you said, Kayleigh, it feels like the precursor to the horrible, deadly exit for our military troops from Afghanistan. Yeah, the president needs to come out tonight and address the country and tell us why those families will miss their loved ones who are now going to Eastern Europe. For what exactly? He's got to tell us this.
Definitely. And Harris, she brings up that point, Emily. It comes back to Afghanistan. And I wonder, Morgan mentions this isn't unified action among, all of, our Western European allies and Eastern Europe, too. I wonder if they've lost faith in Biden. When he came onto the scene, there was that cozy welcoming of President Biden. Afghanistan happened, and all of a sudden, very frosty relationships with our allies. I just wonder if they've lost faith.
I mean, I know the American people have. I have, for many reasons. And actually, Morgan, I'd like to cede my time to you. And my question specifically is that, when Secretary Austin said that these deployments are expected to be temporary, in light of everything that my colleagues have said, Afghanistan is really fresh. That 20-year war and that botched exit is fresh in the minds of the American people, myself included. And so when we hear something like that, an assurance, quote unquote, that the deployments will be temporary, I don't believe that. So what questions, Morgan, should the American people be asking right now?
Well, I think Harris and Ben really hit the nail on the head. I mean, the point of deterrence, right? The point of sending 3,000 troops, or whenever you do this. We did this in the Trump administration. After President Trump took out the largest terrorist in the world, Qasem Soleimani, there were different points where President Trump had to send troops to the Middle East as a deterrent signal. But why did it work when President Trump did it and potentially not work when President Biden did it? Because the Iranians knew that President Trump meant business, because he had taken out the largest terrorist in the world, like I said, Qasem Soleimani. So the difference whenever President Trump makes a deterrent action and whenever President Biden makes it is there's just not a lot there to back it up. The only thing backing up Biden in this move of sending 3,000 troops for a deterrence to Russia is Afghanistan, where they said that they planned for all contingencies, and instead what we actually got were 13 dead Americans.
Yeah, that's right. Trump took out Soleimani, and what did Biden do? As you mentioned, Morgan, he gave a ginormous gift to our enemy, and that was the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Wow.